Hi, everyone. This is Ashley Little from Wholesaling Out of the Box. And today I'm joined by Kaylee Body and Shawn Bowen. And we are going to talk to you about setting yourself up for success. So we know a lot of you that are listening or are in our program or watching the videos. You guys are doing more than one job. This is your second job, maybe even third job, trying to get that investing going, trying to build some generational wealth for you and your family. And so we want to be able to help you do that by giving you some tips and tricks for how to do wholesaling or just real estate investing in general on a short timeline and making sure that your time is productive. So the first thing I want to talk about is work-life balance. And we've got, Shawn just made a face at me, but we've got Shawn and Kaylee on here to talk about it. And I think it's super important to have these conversations with your family when you get started about what your expectations are. Like, hey, I am planning to work this much. I'm planning to work here and do these things, but recognizing what is important. So I read something somewhere about how when you're juggling everything, you have to realize which balls are glass and which balls are plastic. So you know that, okay, this might be a glass ball that I can't drop, Kaylee.
Sorry.
because it'll break, but the plastic ball can drop. So having that conversation with your family so that you know, okay, my daughter's ballet recital is very important. Like that is something that I cannot miss. And if that means I don't take some calls for a day, that's fine. Or it might be, okay, I need to be at this closing because it's going to bring in $15,000 and I won't be able to, look over my son's homework that night. And just knowing what you can and can't do. So Kaylee and Shawn, why don't you guys talk a little bit about that, about how you approach work-life balance, conversations you've had with your family. Kaylee, I know you just had one with your kids right before we got on here.
Yeah, so I'll go first. So with that, yes, things like this, if I'm recording, the kids get warnings. So they'll know not to make a bunch of noise in the house. Don't come knocking at my door. I wish I had one of those flashing recording signs to go on outside of the door. That would work. The same if I'm making calls, no interruptions. Just let them know. But they've been doing this or been used to it now for almost 10 years. Well, yeah, almost 10 years. So they pretty much know the rules. But yes, definitely give them expectations up front and break it down so they can understand how the day will flow.
Mm-hmm. Shawn, you don't have kids, but you have a wife and dogs.
Yeah, so it's a very fine balance. And in the beginning, there's no playbook for it, right? There's nobody out there really talking about this that I know of. And there's other like help books you can go read. But when you first start this, you're the everything, right? So you're doing it all. You're trying to fit it in so many times. It's so many parts of the day, and then picking up at other places because yes, you're trying to like juggle family life, right? So it's a really hard thing to do. Most people come from a 9-to-5 world. So they know they show up, they're there from 9 o'clock. They probably get a lunch break. They might get a few breaks in between. And then 5 o'clock, when they walk out of that office, it's done, right? It's shut off. It doesn't happen again until 9 o'clock, depending on what their position is. That's just not it in this world of real estate, right? Like it's constant. So even us as a team, like we check in with each other in the morning, good morning, it's 9 o'clock. And if we have things we have to do, let each other know, right? But balancing family and life and, like mine is like surfing and like jujitsu. So it's like, hey, at 5 o'clock, I'm shutting it off and I'm coming back. Like it's gone until like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then I get out of the gym, I'm back at my phone and like I can pay attention to stuff, right? But yeah, there is no playbook for this. And it's a very hard thing to learn how to do, especially when you have kids or if you have family that lives at home and they're like, you're constantly in this room, right? And they're like, well, yeah, you're here. Yeah, I'm working, right? Like that's a thing, right? And it's really hard to get across to family members in the beginning.
Yes.
But I think during this recording, we're just coming out of the pandemic. And I think it turned a lot of people to understand what it was like to work from home and then set new goal or new boundaries, right? For the family members to recognize like, okay, if mom's in there, dad's in there, whatever, I don't go in there, right? It's just a new thing for us. It's something we've been doing for a while. So yeah, it's really hard to balance in the beginning, but you do have to make it a thing. You do have to make a balance, and it's hard to do, but you have to like plan it out, schedule it out, right? And talk about it to your significant others so that you're not beating against each other during this. We're both in the same house. We're both trying to figure out what to do, right? So yeah, it's not easy, but it is something that you can plan out and do for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. When I started working with Full Circle, I was living with my mom, and she'd never seen a work from home job before. So to her, she would get very frustrated with me because she's like, "You've been home all day. Why can't you do the dishes? Or why can't you take the trash out? Or things like that, or do some laundry, something to help me out." And I'm like, I'm working. I can't. I do take breaks, and sometimes on the breaks, just because I want to get up and like walk around, I'll do some chores just to like get my blood flowing. But I don't plan to get like the entire house cleaned while I'm during the workday. So just making sure that everyone understands this is what I am doing, and this is why I cannot do these things. Yeah, so I think with that too, something that's important is having a dedicated work area. So I am in my dedicated office right now. I've got my whiteboard with all my random notes. And my grandma, who I live with now, she knows that when I'm up in my office, she's very hesitant to bother me. Most of the times, if she needs something, she'll text me and be like, "Hey, did you feed the dogs this morning?" So that I can give a quick answer or whatever. And then if I have the time, like if I'm in between tasks, I'll go down and I'll talk to her and go from there. But I think this dedicated workspace is also really important because you're able to know, like, okay, when I sit down here, this is time for work. It's a mental thing. And then when I'm done for the day, I close my door and I leave and close my door and I'm done.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I have my boardroom. And we call that because I'm a surfer and I have a lot of surfboards in this room. And it was something that I had talked about for a long time. And then we finally bought a house where it was one room that was dedicated. That was my office. So I made it that way. And instead of having my surfboards in the garage and spread out throughout the house, I made it the boardroom. So it's pretty cool. But I agree. It's this office space that I'm dedicated to. We've got, the desk you got behind you, and I've got whiteboards, and yeah, we've got all this setup that we do our podcast on. So yeah, we can do this. And it's what a game changer to be able to open that door and close that door for like walking in and out of an office, right? It's completely different, but you're still at home. But yeah, it's awesome. You can turn it on and turn it off when it's a lot, not having to worry about transit. You got to drive to work. Got to walk upstairs. So
yeah. And for those who don't have a dedicated office and like a room itself, you can still do this. Like I had to give up my office space in my house. So now I have a portion of my bedroom. Thankfully, I have a very large bedroom. But yes, it's a portion of my bedroom, and still the same concept though. My kids know if the door is closed, don't bother me. If it's open, it's okay. I still might be busy, but it's okay. So yeah, again, the expectations, and just understand you can do this anywhere as long as you have that conversation with the people you live with and your support team.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. And for the longest time, I didn't realize Shawn used those boards like to actually surf on until every now and then one would be missing, and I'd be like, maybe I'm just going crazy. And there have only been two there this whole time. And then the one in the back was missing. And I was like, no, I'm not going crazy about this. There was one there.
Yeah, these two that are whatever on the side of my screen, like these two, there's only one I actually ride because the other one's like a collector's item. But these are boards that have been handed down through my family over the years, right? So these are my grandfather's original boards, and they've gotten handed down to me from my dad, right? And then the one behind me, that's one I always ride. So it's always easily accessible. And if you notice, like the fins are in the corner, so they're not like dangerously out in the middle of nowhere. So it's done strategically for sure.
Oh my God, I would hit my head on that. Like I would hit my head on them all the time.
Well, they're back in the corner, but then off to the side is like my other boards that are stood up, and I ride those pretty frequently, so they're accessible. But yeah, this has always been a thing to like, have that be like your boardroom. So I thought it was cool and I've enjoyed it. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Next thing I wanted to talk about is we discussed that work-life balance, but possibly getting your kids or your partner or anyone in your life involved in what you're doing. This is a good one that Cam has talked about a lot is like he will bring his daughters to appointments and they'll go out and like do something after, whether it's ice cream or, you know, things like that to kind of just like make it fun. They get to go somewhere. His daughter was learning how to drive recently. So her big motivation was that she got to drive to the appointments, and Cam was like, yeah, I can just get to work. Or paying your kids to do small tasks for you. Things like stuffing letters into envelopes, or maybe they're better at Excel than you are because let's be honest, kids today like just know it out of the womb basically. And just like giving them the opportunity and paying like a quarter for an envelope or a quarter for a line or something like that to get them involved and that get them in that money kind of mindset where they're doing something that is productive and they're getting some extra cash to like go out to ice cream later.
Yes.
So Kaylee and Shawn, yeah, how have you gotten your friends and family involved?
Well, for me, my kids have always been involved in whatever I was doing. So with this, my youngest one, she's 12. She actually likes doing the driving for dollars because she likes, once I taught her what to look for, now she's always looking for it. And we keep a paper and pen in the car so she can write down the addresses and things like that. She still doesn't say driving for dollars. She calls it driving for money. But anyway, same point. And both of them, so I have a 18-year-old now, and getting the oldest one involved so she can stop working at Dairy Queen and actually learn how to run her own business and things like that. So definitely I get them involved. It helps them to learn so they can have their own businesses. And of course helps me out. And being the real estate agent too, they just love going to see the bigger, beautiful houses. So, so they can daydream. Yeah.
I think when I originally started, like everybody tries to, right? You want to try to save as much money as you can. You want everybody to be on board with you, right? Like you've got this huge dream of this thing you've been watching, right? YouTube the hell out of it. It looks really profitable. And you want to get your family involved. So I did. My wife started in the beginning where she started helping me go to the courthouse and like look through the files and pull the information. And that just became too much, right? She didn't want to do that anymore. Envelopes and writing, we did that, right? And then I would go to friends and family and ask them like, hey, I can pay your kid to do this, that, or the other. And we tried that. It just turned into where it was not worth the time that we were paying. But at the time I didn't have the money for it. So it worked in the beginning, right? And it was cool, but there is a point where people do have to remember this, and this is for every brand new entrepreneur. You have to get around people that are doing what you want to do because your family is going to get sick and tired of you talking about it. They don't want to hear about real estate 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. But yet we as the entrepreneurs that are in love with it and it's passionate and it's like it consumes us. It's all we want to do. Right. So you have to remember that in the beginning that they're gonna weather that storm a little bit. And then there's that day that's gonna come and be like, shut up. Stop talking about it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And that's when you're gonna realize like, I need to go find a group. I need to go find some people to be like with and talk about it because they like the same thing. So keep that in mind that your family will support you, but don't push them over the cliff of too much.
Yeah. Okay. And this is the final topic I've got before I let you guys open the floor to you guys to give any tips and tricks. Is just making sure that you're setting realistic expectations for yourself. We did an episode last year where we did, if you only have an hour at a time, how to time block that out so that you know that you're getting something done that will be productive. And I definitely recommend listening or watching that. We'll put it in the show notes. But I think that making sure that you set a realistic goal, the SMART goals, that is just so important because if you keep setting these unrealistic goals of making 300 calls in a week and you're getting to like 75, it's going to be very disheartening. And then you're going to want to quit because you feel like you're not getting anywhere. But you are. Those 75 calls are important. Just knowing that what is your limit, especially with your family, your other job, everything like that. Start out small and then see where you go.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, what was
Okay.
the actual question?
Oh, just like what are some other unrealistic expectations that you guys have set, or some realistic ones that you think are good?
Oh, wait. So as a mom with kids and a significant other, having to balance everything, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning, an unrealistic expectation that I have set for myself, probably never ever make it, is to be done work by 5 o'clock. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So yeah, but I certainly agree. Set realistic expectations, not for just yourself, but most importantly, relay it to your family so they understand, um, so you can fit everything in, or try to fit everything in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good idea. Like saying, okay, my goal is 75 calls this week. I'm on 70. I know that dinner is almost ready. Can you give me a few minutes just to make these last 5 calls?
Yep.
So that your family, it knows that you're not just pushing the line, it's there. And they're like, okay, yeah, totally understand. Do your 5 calls and then we'll have our time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I realized in the beginning was you have to commit personal time, as in health, right? So taking the time to be done with your workday and say, yes, I'm going to commit mentally and physically. So like, I'm going to turn things off to where I'm going to focus on, I have to go to the gym. I have to make whatever, like mine's jujitsu. Some guys or ladies work out. Actually, you do your aerial thing, right? So like, there are things that I think are very important to commit and make happen, aside from like the stuff that people say like, oh, I'm going to do a to-do list. How about a not to-do list, right? Like, I am not going to go miss my time at the gym. I am not going to miss my 30 minutes in the morning to listen to an audible or read a book that's helping me with where I'm trying to go in my business. So instead of doing a to-do list, do a I'm not going to miss this, or I'm not going to not do this list, right? So I learned that recently, and it's actually helped with business, but and personal. So I think setting expectations is one thing, but I think really focusing on things that you are not going to commit time to do is really important too, right? Like, I am not going to waste time to sit on the phone for 35, 45 minutes for something I know is not going to get me to my end goal, right? It is not worth my time, and it's not time valuable of money. So, and that could be talking with your significant other, right? Like, I need to take the time to sit down and talk with that person, right? Connect with that person and talk, and not anything real estate based, any of that stuff. You as a person, you as a couple, you as a unit, like whatever it is, it's very important. And I think a lot of people miss that when they start this entrepreneurship role, is that they're just so focused on where they got to get that they forget, like, there's this whole other piece over there that has to happen and matter,
Right.
that those people will support you until the sun comes up, but you can't neglect them, right? You can't miss those kind of things. So I think that's really important that people look at that as well, and not just think about like, my day-to-day in and out stuff. It's the outside things that people don't really talk about, but I think are really important. You want those people there to support you when you need it the most.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I really admire is that you and your wife do date night most Wednesdays. I think you don't if you're going out of town or whatever, but most Wednesdays at 5 o'clock you shut down. And that's just the expectation. That is what you are prioritizing. Yeah. And I think I've had to call you once because of like one of the few emergencies, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
But and like, if you need to, you'll jump in. But for the most part, I'm like, he's done at 5, so I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I learned from, it's like when you go to these weddings or you see people with anniversaries that have been married for 30, 40, 60, 70 years, and you're like, what's the magic pill, bro? Like, what'd you do? And he was like, this one guy that always stuck with me. I think he was married for like 45 years. And he's like, I never stopped dating my wife ever. And I was like, what? And I was like, just, it didn't make any sense to me, right? And he's like, I never stopped dating her. He's like, we always made time to do something once a week. And he's like, I don't care when it was, we made it happen. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, what do you mean? Like, what? And it was just so foreign to me. You know what I mean? Like, and it just brought back the memories of like what you do and how you do it. And it could be simple. Maybe you just want to go to the beach with your dogs, or you want to go out for lunch, or you go out for dinner, or you want to go do something. Just one of those things, right? And it was just really important. So we made it a thing.
Yep.
It does not ever stop or get missed. Or sometimes we'll like switch it out, right? Like, hey, we got something else to do, so we're not gonna do it Wednesday. We're gonna do it like Thursday. Like specifically, we're trying to try to go out of town Thursday. So maybe we won't do it this Wednesday, and we'll be out for the day, and then we have our Thursday and come back Friday. So stuff like that, I think, is really important. So yeah, I agree. It's been awesome to have that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so Shawn and Kaylee, any final tips or tricks for setting yourself up for success, especially for those that are just getting started in this business?
Regarding work-life balance?
Yeah, just anything. It could be work-life balance, or, whatever you think would help them moving forward.
I think the most important thing is having a support system. So, which requires great communication. So support system and communication. So communicating to those that are important to you, setting expectations for them. And like Shawn said, not neglecting them, because you're gonna need them. Even if it's just for their understanding, you're going to need them.
Yep, I agree. So I think one of the highest recommendations I learned after I was in it for a little bit was to hire an assistant. And fortunately, that was Ashley. And this is years after this has happened. But if there are things that have to be done, you have to know how to do them, right? So you're going to go through that. But as quick as you can learn them and make a process, you need to pass that off to somebody that can probably do it better than you, if not as good as you, right? But more than likely, they're going to do it better than you. That needs to be a focus, right? So like one of the big things for us is mailing and systems and processes and things in the background, right? That's something that I had done, but I was not good at, right? So being very organized. Thought I was organized, not nearly as good as what Ashley is, right? So paying attention to what that looks like to bring that person on as quick as possible, because some people are so worried about what they have to pay out versus what they're gaining back. And the gain is more important than what they're looking at as a cost, right? So I think it's the most important part is to, anytime you build something, is to take it and record it and build it out, and then bring somebody on that you can pass that off to and let that build on top of it. If I could go back and change anything, I would have done that way sooner than I did, right? And I would have gotten way more organized and had somebody like Ashley way earlier than not. So anybody listening to this starting from scratch, build out your systems and processes, because you can't teach somebody to do something that you don't know how to do, right? Then bring that person on and allow them to grow. And we call this letting go of the vine. So let go, be okay with it, and know that some things might get screwed up, but more than likely they're going to improve, because it's one thing that you're not good at. Let that person grow. Accountability every week with each other. That's the highest recommendation I can tell somebody getting started in this business. And it doesn't matter what kind of real estate it is, real estate in general. What's your best use of time? And I think having an assistant help you with things that you are not good at is probably the most important part.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things people tend to forget about is, as you start growing in this business, you're not just doing this to earn money, you're doing this to buy back time. So that might be that you are sacrificing some of that money out of your pocket so that you can have more time to go to soccer games or dinners or whatever the case may be, whatever the reason is that you're trying to do this. So recognizing, okay, is it more important for me to have this extra money right now, or to be able to have this time with my family and my friends? And I think that's a big thing.
Time value of money. If anybody gets anything out of the podcast we talk about, you're constantly going to hear us talking about time value of money.
Yeah.
And it ripples through this company, right? We're always trying to gain time back. That's what we're all trying to do, no matter what. You're only here one time. You don't get the time back. So like, do what you can to make the best use of it.
Yeah. Anything else?
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being on here to talk to me. And thank you everyone who is listening. If you're interested in learning more about our program or finding out more about us, you can go to www.wholesalingoutofthebox.com. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, your podcatcher of choice. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.